situations. I mean, it was very embarrassing. Not being able to use the bathroom was crazy. You talk about a humbling experience being a young male that couldn't physically walk. You know,
Yeah.
that changed a lot for my mentality because I feel like from the beginning, because my spinal fluid wasn't regulating because of the tumor, and it had grew tremendously in a short period of time. Like it tripled in size. Paid the bills for this month, I'm good. But no, it's that's not the case now. Now it's that we're gonna go it all the way, every single month, all the way, max our true potential. Hey, this is Ruwan G, and this is my story.
Tell me what's your story. I would like to know.
The biggest thing was like 2 years ago. I woke up and I just couldn't stand up straight. Right, it was like one of those things where like I'm a mobile dude. I love to go work out. I'm physically active, and that's what I need to do per day to feel like the day has been accomplished. And not being able to walk, waking up, it was like not something I can just push under the rug. I was hurting for almost 6 months, and we couldn't really figure out what was wrong. I went to my PCP and I got wrongfully diagnosed as a SI joint inflammation, saying that it was like my groin because I was feeling it around there. And fast forward, right? Being young, I guess I bounced back, is what the doctors say. That's the only reasons why I was able to like walk again and actually work out. I was lifting at the same time when I was dealing with still having some pain, but not like drop foot like I was experiencing during the bad time.
Yeah.
So fast forward like a year later, boom, we get in a car accident. We're in Florida. Somebody rear ends us. It took that for me to get an order for an MRI. So I finally get an MRI, and the MRI shows that there's spacing in my spine. So immediately they're like, my chiropractor said, you got to go to MUSC Cancer Center. So I'm over here hit with a whirlwind. I'm thinking, was this what was happening then? I didn't know, and it's grown. So, not even trying to live in the past, but it kind of affected me a little bit because I didn't get to really, figure that out ahead of time and catch it. So it wasn't as bad. And then I fell through the hoops again. I went to the cancer center. They're like, you're young. We'll monitor it. You're walking. So like you bounce back from it. Well, it didn't take that long up until like these past like 4 to 5 months. Started experiencing headaches, and my back was starting to hurt again. It was flaring up big time where I couldn't walk, and I was getting these like crazy nerve pain spasms. And like I was like, this feels like I'm dying. Like I don't feel like I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And then the headaches got so bad that I got an MRI, and it didn't show anything yet. Fast forward to a couple months later, right when it was December, I fell at the house twice, and then my fiance said enough's enough. Called the family, took me to the Grand Strand because I passed out, and I didn't really know why that was happening because the headaches were so overwhelming. I was throwing up, and really what was happening was my spinal fluid wasn't regulating because of the tumor, and it had grew tremendously in a short period of time. Like it tripled in size. So they were saying, okay, you have to be immediately operated on. And I'm going from like being at the house to passing out, waking up at Grand Strand. They say that they checked my heart rate. It was 30. I almost passed away. They, within 10 minutes, drill a hole in my head to get the drainage for the fluid so that I could be okay. And now I have this external line on my head, foreign object. I'm over here freaking out about it. But they had me on some medication. If not even an hour later, a helicopter comes to take me to MUSC. So never been on a helicopter in my life. And now I'm like laying flat in this short space. I'll never forget the helicopter dude was like, he had like a Batman kind of vibe to him. And he said it, and he had like a mask that was like a Batman mask that he put on. It was so weird, but so cool at the same time because he made me feel comfortable. Because I was like not comfortable at all. Like I was scared. I was still hurting because this thing was still in my back. So I couldn't lay down flat. And here I am now having to lay down flat in a helicopter for like an hour and change until I go get emergency surgery.
Yeah.
Surgery was 11 hours on my back, my spine. Before going in, it was Miss Sefchek. Bless her heart. She's a new surgeon at MUSC in Charleston. She broke it down, and so did a couple other people, her assistants. They're like, you most likely are not going to be able to walk. You most likely are not going to be able to use the bathroom. You most likely are not going to be able to reproduce. There's all these things that are going to happen, and we sought to God. Like everybody in the family, we asked family and friends to just pray. And, I woke up and I was able to, in the beginning, not move this at all. This leg had no function, my right leg. And you can see I'm walking right now. So it's a blessing, right? And I think that we talked about the mental thing. That's what really came into it. Like having a support system during that time, being in the hospital for more than a month, that gets to you, and a lot of things happened to my body since then, I still deal with issues like with bladder issues. Now I still have 10% of the tumor in my spine they didn't remove all of it. That's why I have function. They made the executive decision to not remove all of it, remove 90%, let me heal. I had to go to rehab here, in-house rehab. And then I had home health, and I graduated from that recently, and now I'm doing outpatient therapy, like what Kite's doing.
Yeah.
And we express the difference with outpatient too, because it's like it's challenging you. At home they just want to make sure you can walk around the house, but outpatients where they like put me to work. That's what's necessary to get back to it. Being a fit person, no pain, no gain. You have to go through the pain, but nerve pain is different. So doing the basic things, it hurts a lot different than what it would with fatigue. I can tell the difference between the fatigue and the nerve pain.
And actual pain.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't like taking medication now. So like while I was in the hospital, I was just trying to avoid the things that are being pushed on you. And like I get it's in a medical field, right? So like fentanyl, hydros, all these things, that's like a part of the process when you go through a major surgery. But we know what comes from that, right? And I don't have an addictive personality, so I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about just putting it in my body and the side effects that were occurring. Because if you already have bowel issues, what happens when you take majority medication? Constipation is one of the things
side effects.
Yep. So I had to think about that, and it was more of a mental battle now. So now I'm like, okay, how can I avoid this pain by thinking and focusing on maybe working, keeping up with everything. And I'm in school at this whole time. I'm online school, and I'm doing a national security and law degree. So all it is just reading, right? So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna read as much as I can. Anytime that I'm starting to feel like pain's coming, I'm gonna start reading something and try to like offset it, and it would help. And so I didn't have to take crazy medication because they were trying to put fentanyl on me immediately after the surgery. And for 2 weeks, because of my drain, they had to keep me flat. And it's crazy when you're in the medical field, like they're like, they don't think anything of it, but being the person that's stuck for 2 weeks flat, I couldn't even eat. I had to sit down and eat like that. It was crazy. One of the most humbling experiences,
I bet. I know in the beginning you said you woke up and then you couldn't move, or you couldn't really walk.
Yeah.
And they thought it was a flare up in your groin area.
That side joint.
When did you get back right, as you were saying? Like, when did you get back to yourself after that initial thing? How long did it take?
That was I would say 6 months. I was like in the bad position for 6 months, and then all of a sudden, like I woke up one day and I was able to walk straight. It was weird. In a situation like that, it just happened. They pay homage to being young. They're like, because you were fit, and you're young, you were able to bounce back, right? But only for a matter of time, because it could grow.
Yeah.
So whatever it may be, there's been a flare up for our age. They stated that there's been more tumors grown specifically with the spine within the 30 to 40 year range. And it's crazy to think, because there was a lot more people that have dealt with that were there at MUSC.
Yeah.
So I could relate to different people on this. Like it's come out of nowhere, like, no pre-existing issues at all.
Yeah. That's even crazier. I'm sitting over here listening, trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Low key, because it's just hard for me to think like one day, before the interview, we were just playing basketball, working out, I got to do the thing tomorrow. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, like, what if I just wake up and I couldn't do the stuff I love? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you feel emotionally? I'm pretty sure you was super overwhelmed when you got that MRI and it was like, oh, now you got to go do this. Oh, now you got to go do this. Like, what was your mind going through? And like, how were you? Did you stay calm? Did you kind of freak out a little? Did you cry? Did you have to vent to someone?
Oh yeah, I think that's like important to be real about. Like crying definitely happened. Relationships with family grew, right? That's huge, because that's what Kite and I talk about. You get closer with your family through things like this, because it becomes more like a personal situation now. You need help using the bathroom, walking, showering, all those things, and you're trying to regain that confidence back in that, that mobility, that personal perseverance that you had from before. You got to go back to that mentality, and that's hard. I'd say like I definitely had my emotional state a lot throughout the time when I was on more of the pain medication. And I realized that. I told them to stop giving me pain medication because I wasn't right in the mind. Like so doing real estate, I'm still having to make these calls while I'm in the hospital. I couldn't talk to these investors straight for more than 20 minutes without my mind getting weary and like foggy with being on that medication. I'd forget. I wasn't paying attention. Same thing with family. I started realizing I wasn't really paying attention to them as much. And that sounds like enough's enough, because it's clouding my mentality and how I can be strong mentally and keep myself focused, Trying to keep up with the basics for what I did work-wise was easier because I set it up to where it was more on the phone. Like a lot of work I do is on the phone. So I'm blessed for that, and I
Thank- I'm about
realized
to say,
that by
thank
being
God for
her.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank God for that. For
That you
real.
didn't have like a super physical job.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, yeah.
We have a car rental business, and my fiance, I pay homage to her. She took over everything. She, at a whim, whenever all this happened, she had to learn the whole business, manage our fleets, manage cars. Of course, at the time when I go in, cars start breaking down. You already know that's how it is.
When it rains, it pours.
Yep, it all comes at once. But
Yeah.
she took it on her shoulder. She was also in school too, going online, and she was doing that. She made I don't want to say wrong numbers, maybe 70 plus trips. Every day I was in Charleston for more than a month. They were driving back and forth, and she was, because my mom doesn't drive, and they just go back and forth. She made sure she was there for me. She brought Christmas to me. So you get closer to the people that you're with when all this happens. So that helps me my resilience. So it's not like I had that myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I pay homage to them more, because without them helping me with the business, with my mind, by just coming there, bringing me some food, something different than that horrible hospital food. I mean, that was bringing me life. That was bringing me life. Food was it. Food is it.
Tell me what's your story. I would like to know.